And I remember this guy like shaking his fist at me like this, like, ah, curse you Americans. Hey, what's up everybody? It's Snak Pak. We got the new Eastern Afghanistan map in DCS, and I'm about to show you all my old stomping grounds where I used to fly when I was deployed there as a UH-60 Black Hawk pilot for the United States Army. So we're going to get right into that, and make sure you stay tuned till the end. I'd previously mentioned that all the proceeds from my channel from ad revenue from January and February were going to get donated to the Brotalion Blue Skies Foundation fundraiser for Pat 25, the crew from the DC midair. So at the very end of this video, we're going to make that donation, so stick around. Everybody, it's Snak Pak, and I'm sitting in the UH-60 Lima, and I'm on the ramp at Bagram Bagram Airfield, Afghanistan. U.S. Army is no longer in possession of this airfield, but this is where I was deployed back in 2018, 2019. I had just gotten out of flight school and was deployed out here for about the back half of the deployment. I was here about 4 months. My unit had already been here for about the same amount of time, so I kind of joined them in the back half of the deployment. And you can just see on the horizon there, we were in this beautiful bowl of a giant mountain range all around the area. And this is pretty accurate. I think, I guess it was Eagle Dynamics that designed this. They did a fantastic job here. And this is where we spent most of our time, right here. And you can see back there, there's a couple little hangars, little tent hangars, and there's a couple little domed buildings there. And that's where I worked every day. That's where I did all my mission planning. And you know, we would take off from here. Right up there is, I believe that was called Romeo Pad, and I did a lot of supplemental training and some really fun missions and stuff here. My primary mission set when I was here was just troop transport and cargo transport, so we would do a lot of flights from here to Kabul. And today we're going to crank this thing up, and I'll show you a little bit about where I used to go hang out. So I'll get a couple of these things set up here. Now, if you're curious, I've got several peripherals going on here that I use, and I've done a lot of pairing up of different buttons and switches in here in the controls menu. So it's pretty cool what you can do with DCS. I'm really impressed by it. Turn my APU gen on, and then I'm using my HOTAS Warthog down here. You can't see it's a little off screen. Wasn't able to get it all on screen, but I've got my APU on, so now I'm just going to start both of my engines, and then I can move my, this is actually my SATEC throttle quadrant that I paired up to my PCLs here, and then, oh, I forgot, fuel, might need that. There we go, fuel selectors. Now we'll get started. Engine starters are on. Normally I'd have a checklist that I'd be going off of, so I make sure I don't miss any of this stuff. Alright, and I've got the volume down a little bit, just so I can hear myself think. Alright, and I'm waiting for these engine starter cautions to disappear. They're still on, the engines are still spooling up. I'll go ahead and turn my GPS on now. Alright, starter cautions are out. I'll go ahead and get our AFCS panel going here. Alright, and then let's go ahead and take these engines to fly. Should see our gen cautions disappear here as soon as the engines get spooled up. Rotor's coming up, and they should pop out. There they go. Alright, now I can turn my APU off. APU's off, and now we're ready to go. I've got a series of waypoints, and you can actually name them in the mission planner. It's actually, oh god, what happened over here? What is going on with our, oh my god. Okay, I don't think we're taking fire. I think I think our Chinook friends are just eating crap over here. Well, we should probably call that one in. Maybe, oh god, maybe we'll go look for some survivors. But anyhow, I've got several waypoints that we're going to tune up here. First one's Romeo Pad, and that's just right over here. So on a typical day, I would unlock my tail wheel. I'd call the tower up there. And, looks like we got some other guys taking off here. You can see my programming, my mission planning skills here in DCS are a work in progress. I was supposed to just have them on the ground. I'm not sure where they're going, so I guess I screwed that up. Look at these guys are just flying right over top of me. So on a typical day, me and my wingman And again, I was a very, very junior pilot when I was out here. I had just got out of flight school, so I was basically the co-pilot every day. But and I'd have a pilot in command who was typically sitting in the seat I'm sitting in, and I'd be over there on the right seat typically. Wasn't always the case, but just kind of how the cookie crumbled. All right, so I got my tail wheel locked up again, and then we call tower, and I'll plus up. So one cool thing you're going to want to do in DCS if you have a mission going, all your mission waypoints, there's this is the 128 Delta GPS, and down here there's an increase button and a decrease button, and those will plus you up through your flight plan. So I've just got it on distance bearing time right now, and I've got it on the NGRS setting. And so when I've programmed on my joystick here, I can just push a button plus up and it'll take me to the next waypoint. So we'll just lift up off the ground here. And this is our general AO where we used to work. Like I said, do all our mission planning, anything else we need to do, be taken care of in here, and then we come out and start flying. And over here is the warrior side. We call this the warrior side, and I lived over there, and we'll show you those chews here in a second. Now on the other side of the runway is what we would call the Disney side. It was named after not Walt Disney, but I believe it was a Sergeant Disney who was a U.S. Soldier who was killed in action out in Afghanistan, and they named the whole other side of the base after him. This is a pretty accurate representation of just how massive Bagram airfield was. This is a huge base. You can see all the walls out front here. And we'll just look and you see these big concrete walls. They're actually individual T-walls, we call them. There's a little T at the base. There's these huge T's, and I actually have a little award sitting on my desk for my time and for Operation Resolute support I spent over here on the deployment, and we made our little awards in the shape of a T-wall. Well, at least our command did for us. There you go. There's a whole bunch of them you can see. So those are very useful in you know, protecting us from mortar fire and stuff. The Taliban would like to shoot over at us all the time, but we had some pretty robust defenses on this base, as you can imagine. It's a huge base. Now over here on the Disney side, we didn't get to frequent this very often. There was like a bus you could get on and come over here if you ever had like any time to yourself, which was, you know, fairly rare over here. But over here there was an amazing dining facility. We had a movie theater. Like, it was crazy. I mean, we had everything. There was I believe there was a coffee place up the road here. I can't remember if it was a Starbucks or not. I think it might have been a Starbucks. But we had quite a setup over here. Now by the time I got here, again, it was like 2018. And remember, like, this invasion kicked off in 2001. So we had plenty of time to build up. And over here is where our medevac unit was based, and then this is where all the larger jets would come in and drop people off. I flew into here from Kandahar, which is off to the south, on a C-17. Or maybe it was a C-130 at that point. I can't remember. I was on so many different planes. Deploying out here took like a week. I had to stop in Kuwait. I was sitting in Kuwait for like several days just waiting on a jet to take us out here to Afghanistan. So then we come over here, and next is the Chews we used to live in, and right over here you can see more T-walls. Now this was the warrior side. All right, we had a pretty decent dining facility over here, and it looks like there's this nice quaint little living area over here, but it wasn't really didn't really look that nice. We actually lived in modified shipping containers, and I got a little picture here I can show you. Little shipping containers, and it was me and one other pilot, and we would share that. He was senior to me, so he got the back area, and then we did our best to kind of separate the areas using a little blanket. We have a little bit of privacy, but there really wasn't any, you know. But it wasn't terrible. I mean, at least we weren't living in a tent, and we had little air conditioners and heaters and stuff, so it was pretty, you know. Like I said, by the time we got here, the war had just been going on for so long, we were so built up that, you know, we had many more resources than the folks who had originally deployed out here. There was nothing here, you know. That was a miserable time. I don't know anything about it, but I can tell you it was definitely not a good time. All right, so continuing on, Over here is the northeast part of Bagram Army Heliport, and this is where I did a lot of my training. So if you become an Army helicopter pilot, you go to flight school, but your training's not complete. All right, you have to go to your unit, and then there's instructor pilots at the unit who finish your training. And right over here, it's only depicted as a road, but over here, this is actually a little landing strip. I'm pretty sure I have this right. It's been a while since I've been out here, so. But this was a little landing strip we called Hickory. If I'm wrong, maybe somebody can correct me. I think this was called Hickory, and used to do lots of traffic pattern work over here, just working on landing after different simulated emergencies and stuff like that. And then we would take off and we would make right traffic, and we had to make right traffic and stay outside of this T-wall, because over here was the Parwan prison facility, Parwan detention facility, and we had a whole bunch of our Taliban prisoners over here at the detention facility. So this was a no-fly, so now that I'm in a simulator, I finally get to fly over the detention facility. Here we go. There we go, and they had, obviously, you can see a big wall around this, right? You don't want them getting out. Now I think a bunch of these guys ended up escaping at some point, and of course they let all of these people out once we pulled out of Afghanistan. A lot of opinions on that, and I'm not going to get too wrapped up in that in this video, but just wanted to show you kind of where my little stomping grounds were. So used to do a lot of flying over here, and then we'd come back in and make our approach into Hickory and practice roll-on landings and landings with our AFCS off and all kinds of stuff. Okay, so one of the most typical flight routes we took was down to Kabul. Now, Kabul is the capital of Afghanistan. Now, one thing you're going to notice is my altimeter. All right, my altimeter is this little gauge. Let's see if I can point it to you right here. And this says 5,000 feet, right? You got to kind of look at the big handle here, and it's not really depicting this very well. But anyway, I'm at 5,000 feet, and that's like ground level here at Bagram. 5,000 feet. That's 5,000 feet above sea level. So, like, if you live on the coast in the United States or anywhere where you live close to the beach, like, you're pretty much 0 feet MSL at that point. But out here at Bagram, we're already 5,000 feet up in the atmosphere, right? And then you can see these mountains ahead of us are going to get even higher. So typically, I'm going to try to keep my torque fairly low right here in this torque gauge, but you know, in the interest of this video, we're just gonna crank this sucker. So, you know, I'd be frying my engines right now. Probably wouldn't even let me get this high, but now typically you see off to the east over there, that was like a typical route that we took at the time. And there were some waypoints out there that we had set up. I think I have a little video of that pass over there. Just play that while I'm flying here. You see right now, for those of you gamers who like to play this UH-60 mod, alright, I've got the torque maxed out, okay, the collector's all the way to the top here, and I'm pulling in 136% on the torque gauge, and it's like, man, I'm not getting over this mountain. Well, look at my airspeed, I'm doing like 135 knots, so if I pull that back to about 70 knots or so, I'm going to get a much more increased rate of climb. You see the vertical speed on the bottom right there. That little needle's going way up. I'm climbing at 5,000 feet per minute now, and now I'm hustling over top of this mountain here, right? So, real life, you're not going to pull this much power in, but you know, in the simulator, why not? I just had to change my shirt. I was like smoking in here. Had a long sleeve shirt on. It got like a lot hotter in my house, real quick. Cool, so you can see we're going to some pretty high altitudes here, right? I'm almost at 10,000 feet. When I hit 10,000 feet, like, I got to start worrying about how much oxygen is up here in the air, right? You can't really stay here forever. You can look in the FAA. The FAA talks about how long you can stay above 10,000 feet, and then you get significantly higher than that. You need supplemental oxygen, or you need to pressurize your cabin. Black Hawk cabin is not pressurized, but you do have oxygen available. So this is case in point why we went around that other pass, because we would need a lot of power to get over these mountains every day. So it's not like we couldn't do it, but it was easier to just fly around them. And Ego Dynamics did just a beautiful job modeling these mountain ranges. These are the, I can't remember which ones are the Panjshir Mountains and then the Hindu Kush Mountains, but the Panjshir Mountains I know specifically are full of emeralds, and it's really sad because the Afghanis, they just blow them up with TNT to try to get the emeralds out, and they end up damaging a lot of the emeralds in the process. I bought some for my wife from a little bazaar, and I didn't get I got her small ones because you can never tell from the merchants at the bazaar if what you're buying is real or not. I mean, you know, they'll try to convince you, but so I spent not a ton of money because I just wasn't sure if they were real or not, but I'm pretty sure they're real. They're just smaller. But it's funny, the merchants at the bazaar, they'd be like, "Hello, my friend, I have a special deal just for you today. Special deal." You know? And it's always, my friend, come see my wares. You know? So, speaking of special deals, if any of you folks are interested in fiction books, you might go ahead and spend 99 cents on my wife's book. She just published a book called Life Sentence. It's actually a very interesting novel she wrote about what it's like for a vampire to become a human again. I'm not big on vampires myself. It's not really my shtick, but I read it, and at first I was like, man, this is a really cool book. And I got halfway through it, and I was like, I can't even go to, I canceled a flight. I was like, I can't come fly today. Like, I have to finish this book. Like, all life stops. So it really is that good. You should check it out on Amazon. It's 99 cents. I'll put a link in the description. But you know, if you or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whoever is into vampire lore, if you like Twilight when you were a kid, this is like a grown-up version. It's definitely very R-rated, but check it out. Alright, so here we are, beautiful mountain ranges here, and then this is a pinnacle. We're going to try to land on top of this mountain and see if we can get some good pictures. Up at almost 10,000 feet here. And after this mountain, we're going to fly down to Kabul, which is not too much further south. So again, I'm doing 120 knots, so if I just pull back on the cyclic a little bit, I'm going to increase the pitch, and you'll see my airspeed decreases. As it gets closer to 70 knots, you're going to see my vertical speed is going to increase. Now I'm already climbing pretty fast. If you have ever flown a little Cessna airplane, you might be climbing, depending on the season and how much weight you have, anywhere from 200 or 300 feet per minute to maybe 800 feet per minute, maybe more if it's nice and cold out and you have a light load. But here you can see I was climbing at like 3,000 or 4,000 feet per minute at one point. Okay, so let's get a nice landing here. Flying helicopters in simulators like DCS, a Microsoft Flight Simulator, is like the most difficult part is landing, and it's not your fault. It's not your fault. The reason is because it's difficult to get a good reference over here. And there's something we call motion parallax, and it's really just looking at the ground moving past you. If I look way off in the distance, those mountains look like they're not even moving. Right? And that's just the relation to my position as I look out. But if I look at the ground next to me, I can see how fast I'm coming in. And so I can look out the chin bubble. Let's try to get a nice little, off to the side a little bit. Try to get a nice little soft landing on this little pinnacle here. See if we can, maybe a little bit of a slope. No, not gonna work. Try to get nice and centered on it. Alright, we'll try to get a nice little landing right here. Try not to fly off the side. It's definitely going to be a little bit of a slope on one side. I'm going to try to get right on top of this pinnacle. See if I can lower the collective. And we should stay. We're like right on top of it. I probably wouldn't have landed here in real life because I think the tip of the mountain is like up into the belly of the aircraft right now. My wheels are on either side. Let's take a look outside and see where we're at. Alright, it's actually not too bad. But yeah, you can see like the belly of the mountain, or the mountain's up into the belly of the aircraft. You gotta be really careful about that. You gotta think about where your landing gear is, but look at that view. I mean, that's just gorgeous. So think about all the missions that happened out here where Blackhawks were landing on these mountains and letting troops out to go conduct patrols or direct ops or whatever it was. It's pretty awesome. Okay, so we'll plus up to the next waypoint here, and it's behind us, and now we're going to do probably my favorite thing to do in a helicopter. Tail clear left, nose clear right. And that is dive off the side of a mountain. Have to do this in Afghanistan, in Europe. There's lots, anywhere you have a mountain, like the most fun thing to do is just dive off the end of it, right, with a cyclic dive. So we're going to see what kind of airspeed we can get going here. Here we go. I'm going to squeeze the guts out of her too while I'm coming down. I'm going to pull in a lot of power. You wouldn't really need the power, but I'm going to pull it in anyway. And then here I'm going to exceed a few of the limitations of the aircraft just so I can get a really high rate of speed. Here we go, we're at the VNE. I'll let it go a little bit. I'm not sure if the helicopter will explode and I don't want to ruin my video, so I got to about 190 knots there. That was awesome. That's about the max. You're not really supposed to go past that. In a helicopter, you can get into something called retreating blade stall. Now, some helicopters are immune to this, like a Chinook. Don't quote me on that. I don't fly Chinooks, and some of my Chinook buddies might tell me, hey, actually, there's some issues with that. But the thing about a Chinook is they have like a tandem rotor disc. So each rotor disc is spinning in an opposite direction. And then there's other helicopters that have like a coaxial, like two rotor discs on top, one on top of the other. They're spinning in opposite directions. But if you just have one rotor disc, eventually, you see the blades are spinning counterclockwise over my head, right? Spinning counterclockwise. Well, eventually, if I go in forward flight, that blade that's going backwards, if I go fast enough in the forward direction, eventually that blade is not going to be able to produce lift. And at a fast enough airspeed, we'll hit retreating blade stall, and it'll look like this. It'll like roll to the left and pitch up, and then you got to like take some power out. My GPS waypoint. So I have increase and decrease, right? And you can actually see on the bottom left of those little the little keypad on my GPS. Let me climb up a little bit so I don't eat it into the ground here while I'm showing you this. I go down and up and down and up, those bottom two left buttons. That is plussing me up through my flight plan that I created in the mission editor, right? And you could have done this in real life. You know, there's like a little mission editor computer, and we can pull a little card load in there and stick it in our card loader right back there. And then you can load all these plans in, and I can load flight plans. And so I have it set up on my joystick. I coupled up some buttons here to where I pushed down, and I just went back to the previous waypoint. And so you see that on the bottom on my HSI, right? My HSI is this little compass right here that I have, and it shows me going south right now. And the yellow needle, it's actually called the #1 needle, and it's got a little 1 on it, and that needle is hooked straight up to my GPS. So it's pointing behind me, and it says that point, that pinnacle I was just at on top of that mountain, it's telling me it's about 13 kilometers away and increasing. And this old Lima has this awesome analog display. The new aircraft, if any of you have ever flown any modern aircraft, they have all these digital flat screen displays, and those are great. But I got a soft spot for these old analog instruments. They're awesome. I love them. But anyway, if I plus up, I had to plus up an increase. Now you see it's taking me to the next waypoint. It's telling me I got to come a little bit to the right. I just follow that needle and then line up right on the needle. Now I'm going direct to my next waypoint, and it says it's 8.5 kilometers away. So just beyond this little mountain ridge right in front of me is going to be Kabul. And Kabul is the capital of Afghanistan. I was here in the winter time, so I didn't get to see all these trees. Everything was kind of dead when I was here. So I'm not sure if that's entirely accurate. But I know there were some areas, especially up in the mountains, where there's a lot of trees. But it looks really nice down there. The truth is, it was a lot of like mud huts and stuff, especially away from the city. So let's just squeeze in a bunch of torque here and break some torque limits, and we'll come up to the top of this mountain ridge, and we'll get a nice, good view of Kabul. And we used to come to Kabul all the time. Just past this mountain ridge is going to be an airport. This is Hamid Karzai International Airport, or Afghanistan. I think they may have changed the name now. I don't know. Afghanistan International Airport. But back in the pullout, there was a lot of, breaking news about us leaving Afghanistan and how all that went down. And there were a lot of Afghanis who were trying to get out. And right up ahead of us is the airport, you can see. And just beyond that is Kabul proper, right? Big, bustling metropolis of Kabul. And we used to fly in here all the time, just picking people up, taking them over to Bagram, whatever, right? I didn't get to do any kind of spicy missions while I was deployed, right? It was, obviously we're in a combat zone because anybody, Taliban's all over the place, and they would potentially love nothing more than to shoot a U.S. helicopter down. But anyway, we're over here at Kaya, and they actually had a really good dining facility here and a place you could get milkshakes, and there was a tailor who made suits for a bunch of people. A bunch of people bought really nice suits over here, and they had a big bazaar. I can't remember exactly where the terminal was where we used to get off, but there was definitely a little place where you could get milkshakes and coffees and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. Flew a lot of generals and people like that around here. Okay, so the next place we're going to go is a place called Soccer Field. Now, it's not modeled on in the East Afghanistan package that you get from DCS. By the way, this is a $30 expansion, and man, it's awesome out here. Like they did a really good job. We used to fly fairly low level over the city here. Here's all the red roof buildings. That's right, I was looking for these. I've got a really cool, here, I'm going to do a little circle around here because I've got a video here that I'll play. I'm just now finding these just now. This is great. Alright, so let me do a little circle here. I wish I had taken more video footage out here than I did. But yeah, here we are. There's a mosque. And here's all the red roofs. I'm going to try to look at this the way I looked in the video. I haven't seen the video in a little while, but I know I have it. Yeah, man, that's crazy. So there were some routes that we had a little air structure here, and we would find different points on the road and everything and follow these little routes. And there was all kinds of LZs out here we used to go to. One of the big ones was Soccer Field, so I'm just going to go direct to it. It's not really modeled in here, but Soccer Field was anybody who's been deployed in this area, any helicopter pilot who's been over here knows about Soccer Field. That was over where I believe it was like the HQ, like CENTCOM HQ was located, so we would pick up the CENTCOM general a lot and fly him where he needed to go. I was basically in a VIP unit when I was there, but we would take anybody who needed to get anywhere around here. It was just this GPS here has up to 99 points you can put in. And so there was a ton of LZs and waypoints and stuff, and we basically just had like a master load, and then we have like a little Excel sheet that says like, hey, you go into this LZ, right? That's waypoint 47. Like, okay, cool. We could just type in 47 and it would take us right there. You know, it's really simple. This old GPS looks incredibly outdated, but it was actually very elegant, in my opinion, for what it could do. Some more modern systems are certainly much more capable, much more user-friendly, but this one was simple. It was very simple and easy to use. And when you're flying aircraft, simplicity is really everything. I mean, I'm about to get into settling with power over. I'm in settling with power. Woof! Almost just died. So that was called the vortex ring state, and we just got into settling with power, and we almost just ate it. I wasn't paying attention. Busy blabbing about GPSs and stuff. So soccer field was like right over here. Only disappointment I have is that they didn't model it, but they probably don't even know about it, right? But basically it was this really tight LZ. So over here is a little spot that kind of resembles it a little bit, and this is not it, but soccer field was this tiny little LZ, and I'll put a little picture of the satellite imagery here. And you can see the little helicopters on the satellite imagery, I think. And so we used to have to come in here, and again, we're like 6,000 feet above sea level right now. The helicopters have trouble, really any aircraft has less performance at higher altitudes, right? And as you can see, I'm looking out the front, I'm looking out the side. I'm trying to get a nice steady landing in here. So we had decreased performance out here just due to the altitude, and then you combine heat, right, in the summer. I was here in the winter, so I didn't have to deal with it, but heat and then loads in the back, and you know, these Blackhawks are incredibly powerful, but they do have like some limitations, right? So you would start to get close to like, you know, getting to the max power this thing had, you know. But right here, there was actually a building in front. When we landed at soccer field, there was a building that would be right in front of you that was like probably 4 times the size of this one in front of me. And so you had to take off vertically. And I remember I was a pretty junior pilot. They had, I think it was Fridays. Every Friday they had a bazaar set up, right? Just local people selling their wares, right? Clothing items and rugs and whatever else they had. And there was some trees over here, much like these trees in front of me. And I came straight up, and I was sitting in that other seat right there. My PC was sitting in this seat. He said, "Okay, Mike, come straight up." I'm coming straight up. He's like, "Okay, now give me a left pedal turn." Okay, all right, roger that. And I started coming this way, and I think I came a little too far to the right because my downwash like destroyed this bazaar. It like blew all of their clothes over, and there was like scarves in the trees and everything. And I just remember this guy, like I'm way up here, like hundreds of feet above the ground now, and I remember this guy like shaking his fist at me like this, like, "Ah, curse you Americans," and like, "You ruined my bazaar," and they're like very upset at me. And I mean, I felt bad, but like, why do you have a bazaar set up right next to a helicopter LZ? Like, come on, man. So that was a funny day, and all the other pilots gave me a bunch of crap for that. Now that's pretty much it, and I'll just show you some of the really other pretty places around this area. Where are we going next? There's like a lake over here. Try not to. The other thing is we would fly low level around here like this, and the Afghanis would fly kites, right? They would send kites up, and they would see our routes, you know, like we try not to be predictable, you know, try to fly different routes and stuff, but at the time I went there wasn't like a whole lot of stuff going on, to be honest. I mean, there was just certainly still some operations going on, and you know, there was definitely a certain amount of inherent danger, but anyway, yeah, the Afghans would fly kites, and I remember that same guy who was my PC when I blew the bazaar over, it may have been the same day actually. He was on the controls when we were flying, and then he's like, "Oh, kite!" He like did this awesome evasive maneuver and saved us. We didn't crash into the kite. So that would really suck if it got wrapped up in our rotor system, you know. Okay, cool. So we got this power lines here, and a nice, beautiful lake. And then I believe there was this pass over here. Let me see if this is the right one. This last thing we'll do. So actually a pretty beautiful country, and it's a shame that the Taliban rules this place now, because it's a gorgeous country and they could be rich if they would allow their citizens to be free and allow us to maybe come in and give them some mining equipment and, like, you know, maybe share some of the profits or something. I mean, you know, we could develop this country and it would be a rich country. I mean, a very rich country. I mean, look at these gorgeous mountains. It would be a beautiful vacation destination. It's just run by the Taliban. It's run by gangsters now. You know, that's basically what they are. So I recall, again, this was a while ago, but I remember going down this valley and just being in awe of how beautiful this country was, really. The other thing is, what you're not seeing, I tried to replicate it on, I tried to replicate it in the weather here, but I couldn't really do it right. I'm still learning on how to do mission planning, mission editor in DCS. But in the wintertime, the people in Kabul would burn anything they could possibly get their hands on to stay warm, including tires and anything that would create toxic fumes. And so it was just smog. Like, Kabul was just covered in smog like the whole time. You know, so you can kind of see it in some of the video that I'm showing of my time there. So in the summertime, I would think maybe it was a little better. But in the wintertime, yeah, just covered in haze and smog just from all the crap they were burning and getting all those nice heavy metals in your lungs. That's why you might see those commercials about burn pit registry and, you know, the VA is here to help you, right? So that'll about wrap it up, all right? And you can see just how beautiful this country is, but this is like pretty much the local area where I flew around. I went several other places, Jalalabad, and there was a lot of other smaller bases we would go take people to and from. But this was kind of like my job, you know, just kind of flying around the area, and it was definitely enlightening and a really great place to start my career. Definitely recommend you pick up this expansion. It's pretty awesome, man, especially if you want to start doing some ops around here. Like, it's gorgeous flying, and you can see the new textures they put on these mountains are awesome, man. Just really awesome, and very accurate in my opinion to what it was actually like flying out here. All right, so here you can see on the analytics page from January 1st to February 28th, pulled in $2,385.51. So we're going to go ahead and make this donation right now. I had to pull a little bit off the top because of processing fees, but $2,314 will go directly to the families of the crew. So thanks so much for everybody who watched my videos, and I really appreciate all the support. If you're able to come give to the Battalion Blue Skies Foundation, they're only about 15% of their goal, and it'd be really great if you could drop $1 or $2 over here. Also, if you can donate to any of the families of the victims on the CRJ, go check out GoFundMe. There's links in the description. All right. So thanks so much. And don't forget to pick up my wife's book. It's only 99 cents. I think you'll really like it. All right, Snak Pak out.